All right, guys, here we are today. We're going to be predicting the playoffs. We're partly into week 17, so this is huge predictions here. The It's not that difficult at this point in the season. There are some things that could happen that could change, but I'm predicting here what I think is going to happen in these last 2 weeks and how the playoffs are going to shape up and what it's going to look like. And then we'll be going through what I think is going to happen, like playoffs, who's going to win the playoffs, who's going to the Super Bowl, and who's winning that. Obviously, I want my Packers to win it, but you know. So, here we go. We're going to be starting off with the AFC. A very pretty simple to predict. I saw this one coming quite a while ago. So let's start with the 7 teams that I think have a chance of getting in there. So Kansas City, number 1 seed. It's already decided. They beat the Steelers yesterday. Kansas City is going to be the number 1 seed in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. So it doesn't matter. Their next game is against the Broncos. They play the Broncos next, and I think they're going to win that game. They're going to end with 16-1. So that's not that bad. Now, Buffalo, their next 2 games are divisional games, but let's be honest, their division sucks. They've got the Jets. They're going to win that game. They've got the Patriots, who they beat last week in a very close game. It was a Buffalo scare right there. Patriots, they're going to win that game too. They're going to end 15-3. Now let's move on to Baltimore. Baltimore, their next game is the Browns. After beating the Texans yesterday, the Baltimore's going to win that game. They're going to end 12-5. They're going to lock down their division. Houston, our next team. Houston, they play the Titans after losing to the Ravens. Houston's already clinched a spot in the playoffs. But they're going to beat the Titans, I hope. I mean, it's the Titans, led by Will Levis. And they're going to end 10-8. Now, here's where it gets tricky. I wasn't sure how to do this because these 2 teams will end with the same record if it's what I think is going to happen. So we got the Chargers. They're going to be playing the Patriots and then the Raiders. They're going to win that game. They're gonna win both those games. I don't have any doubt about that. Pittsburgh, the 6th seed, let's not get there yet. I'm moving quick. Pittsburgh is gonna win against the Bengals in Week 18. They lost against the Chiefs yesterday, but they've already had a playoff spot clinched. So the Pittsburgh's gonna win against the Bengals, no doubt about that. Because the Bengals have a terrible defense. And then we get to Denver, where it's a little tricky. Because the Bengals their defense is terrible. It's atrocious. It's like a nightmare to watch. I don't want to watch it. I'm going to be honest. So the Broncos play the Bengals and then the Chiefs. I'm predicting that they beat the Bengals and they clinch a playoff spot because that's how they have to do it. If the Chargers win Saturday, they clinch a playoff spot. And if the Broncos win, I think Sunday, I don't know when they're playing, they clinch a playoff spot. So, and Denver's best chance to clinch a playoff spot was against the Chargers last week, and they somehow chargered that game. I don't even want to talk about that one. But I've got the Chargers ending at 11-6 and Pittsburgh ending at 11-6. So I don't know how that would work, deciding seeding right there. But yeah, and then we got Kansas City. Then we got Denver ending at 10-7. So break that down. Kansas City has number 1 seed locked in. That's like already decided. Kansas City's winning. Number 1 seed. Buffalo is going to be my number 2 seed. And then Baltimore, who is locked in this past week with Pittsburgh losing 3 games in a row against the Eagles, the Ravens, and now the Chiefs. Baltimore's going to take the 3 seed. Houston's going to take the 4 seed. And with these 4 teams being in different divisions, they obviously clinch these 4 seeds, the top 4 seeds. And then we get down to the LA Chargers, who are, I'm going to put it 5 because they've won past games and the Steelers have lost these past 2 games. And then Pittsburgh, I'm going to put it 6 because they just lost 3 games in a row, and I think they'll beat the Bengals. And then Denver, I'm going to put it 7 because I think they can beat the Bengals. But if they lose to the Bengals, I don't think they're going to make it in because yeah, they're not beating the Chiefs. It was a blocked field goal last time, I know, but the Chiefs have some kind of dark magic, let's be honest. So, there's my predictions for the AFC. Chiefs at 1, Buffalo at 2, Baltimore at 3, Houston at 4, LA Chargers at 5, Pittsburgh at 6, and Denver at 7. Now, let's move on to the NFC. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky because there was a lot I had to do here to figure out my predictions. So, let's start off with the people who are in the running and what their games are in the future. All right, so we're Detroit Lions. They're playing the 49ers on Monday. Easy game for them. The 49ers are not a good team. I've talked about that. I don't think I really need to go over it again. Vikings, they're going to win that game too. I think it's going to be close. I think it's definitely going to be a close game, but I don't think they're going to win, or I don't think they're going to lose that one. Even with a beat-up team, I still think they have that one locked in. No doubt in my mind. And then we move on to Philadelphia. Philadelphia taking a loss against the Commanders. I predicted. I just want to say that again. I've said that before. I predicted it. They're going to be playing the Cowboys. Easy game. They're going to play the Giants. Easy game. Philadelphia is going to win out their last few games, and they're going to be in good spot. And these first 4 teams are teams that have clinched playoff spots, not in the order. This is not in any order whatsoever. Minnesota, they're going to I'm predicting a loss to Green Bay. Go Pack Go. And if you guys want to hear more about why I think Green Bay is going to win, and not just because I'm a Packers fan, go look at my last predictions video. And then they're going to take a loss to the Lions. 2 losses, which is what Packers need. Now, talking about the Packers are going to beat the Vikings, in my opinion. I think the Packers are on fire right now. They've got everything they need to beat these teams and go far in the postseason. And then they're going to beat the Bears. It's the Bears. The Bears are just trying to tank at this point. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is the part I enjoyed. I love trying to predict this. Atlanta is going to lose to the Commanders. I believe that. Now, it's going to be a rookie showdown. Michael Penix Jr. and Jaden Daniels. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, but I don't think that the Falcons are going to be able to pull off against a team like that. And then they're going to beat the Panthers. It's the Panthers. And then let's go Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to beat the Panthers this week. I love Bryce Young as a player. He's a great player. I don't think he's on the right team at this moment. Now, if they build that team around Bryce Young, he could be dangerous in the future. But this season, that's not the story. So, Tampa Bay is going to beat the Saints. The Saints are just a battered and bruised team. So, they're going to beat the Saints. The Rams play the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Now, the Cardinals and Seahawks is where it gets crazy. If the Cardinals can pull off, now I'm predicting that the Rams win, but let's talk about what would happen if they didn't. If the Cardinals beat the Rams this week, that opens up a lot for the Seahawks to get into the playoffs. But the Rams have been on fire. They have Puka Nacua. They have Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford's playing great football. I don't see any way that they lose to the Cardinals, who got beat by the Panthers. So Rams beat the Cardinals, Rams beat the Seahawks, because then again, the Seahawks are not the best team. I don't think Geno Smith is the right pick for them. I think they need to find someone younger, invest in a rookie quarterback who they can progress, but I don't think the Seahawks are in the right spot as of now. And then, talking about the Seahawks, they're going to beat the Bears today, Thursday Night Football. And then I think they're going to take an L to the Rams, which is ultimately going to get them out of the playoffs, which is insane that that game is going to come down to, or no, it doesn't really come down to it. If the Cardinals don't beat the Rams this week, if the Rams win this week, they lock in a playoff spot. So that's the big thing here. And then Washington. Washington is, like I've talked about, they're going to beat the Falcons, and then they play the Cowboys, and they're going to beat the Cowboys, and that's how they're going to get into the playoffs. Now, let's talk about this. Detroit, after that, is going to end 15-2. Philly's going to end 14-3. Minnesota and Green Bay are both going to end 13-4. Atlanta would end 9-8. Tampa Bay would end 10-7. The Rams would end 11-6. Seattle would end 9-8. And Washington would end 12-5. Now let's talk about this. That would automatically give Detroit the first seed. That would give Philly the second seed. And Minnesota and Green Bay, that doesn't matter because we got to talk about the top four first. So Detroit first, Philly second, and then we get here, the Rams would take the third seed because someone from the Rams division has to go to the playoffs. So they'd be 11-6. They'd be the top in their division. They're going to the playoffs. And then Tampa Bay would take fourth seed at 10-7. The Rams at 11-6. Tampa Bay would be the top in their division. So they'd be 10-7. And what's insane is they'd only be one game away from not going. And this is a team I had faith in. And then they got clobbered by, I think, the Chargers. I don't even remember at this point. I was disappointed in that game. Now, Green Bay and Minnesota is where it gets wonky because, like I've said in the AFC, they have the same record, or they would if my prediction is right. They'd both be 13-4, and goodness, they'd both be 13-4. But Green Bay beating the Vikings, I think, would put them over, and Green Bay would take the 5th seed. Minnesota would take the 6th seed, and then the last spot up for grabs is the 7th seed with a 12-5 Washington Commanders. And the two teams that are in the hunt right now that would be eliminated would be Atlanta and Seattle, both at 9-8. Atlanta would lose that spot to Tampa Bay. Now, if Tampa Bay lost to the Panthers or the Saints, then it's open for Atlanta to get in there but Atlanta would need to beat the Commanders and the Panthers. So, Seattle, it's weird. If the Rams would have to lose to the Cardinals. If the Rams beat the Cardinals, the Rams lock in a playoff spot. But let's view what I said. So Detroit first seed, Philly second, Rams third, Bucks fourth, Green Bay fifth, Minnesota sixth, and Washington seventh. That is my NFC. Now, I will show you guys. I drew out a bracket. It may not be the prettiest thing, but I'll show you guys what it looks like. We got here, let's see, Detroit in first right here. Green Bay is fifth, and Tampa Bay would be fourth. They would be playing each other. And then we got Minnesota playing the LA Rams in sixth and third. Seventh and second would be the Commanders and Philly, a rematch from last week, which I think could go either way. That could be a huge upset in the postseason, but anything can happen in the postseason. And then we get to the AFC. We got the Chargers in number one, and then not the Chargers, the Chiefs in number one. The Chargers would be fifth, and Houston would be fourth, playing against each other. Pittsburgh would sixth, and Baltimore would be third, and Denver would be seventh, and Buffalo would be second, playing each other. Now, let's predict who wins those games. Where's my Sharpie? All right, so let's start here. Green Bay and Tampa Bay. The Battle of the Bays, okay? I feel like, now, you guys, people are going to say, oh, he's a Packers fan. He's just going to say the Packers. The Packers are on fire right now, and Tampa Bay is not. The Tampa Bay may not even make it into the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Green Bay to win this game. I'm like, Green Bay, 5th seed, is going to beat the 4th seed. And that would move them. Now, depending on what happens here, it depends on who they would play next. So Minnesota and the Rams. So this is wild card matchups. Minnesota and the Rams. That's a dangerous game for Minnesota. Because Minnesota is like, they're playing good football, but they've had some close games, close calls against the Seahawks last week. But in my opinion, I feel like Minnesota could definitely get knocked off very early against the Rams. So I'm going to go with the Rams getting that win, not because I'm a Packers fan and I hate the Vikings, which I do, but the Rams have just been burning through teams right now. So I'm going to go with the Rams to get that win and Minnesota to take the loss. Okay? And then Washington and Philly. I called Washington win it the first time. But the thing is, Jalen Hurts got injured. And Kenny Pickett was not playing bad whatsoever. He did for the Steelers. But Washington and Philly, I feel like Philly wins this game because Washington I feel like if Jalen Hurts was in that game the entire time last week, then they would have won. So I'm gonna go with I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Commanders to win this game again. Now, Jaden Daniels thrown 5 touchdowns. All he had to do is get rid of the 5 I don't know if he threw 5 interceptions. I know there were 5 turnovers in general. So I'm gonna go with Philly. If they get rid of not Philly, I'm going with Washington. If they get rid of those turnovers and Jaden Daniels plays that same way, they can win that game, no doubt. So win for Washington and a loss for Philly. So that would make Washington would play the Lions, and the Rams beating the Vikings would play the Packers, beating the the Packers beating the Bucks. So let me show you guys what that would look like here. This is what our divisional bracket would look like after that. Now let's go over to AFC. I think the Chargers and the Texans, I've chosen the Texans to win games and they keep losing them. So I don't have faith in the Texans, but I also don't have faith in the Chargers. So I'm going to go with the Texans to win this game. I feel like that would be an easy win for them. Not really easy. I feel like it'd be a pretty close game. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. This one could go either way. They split this year. They split their divisional games. But I'm going to go with Baltimore getting the W there because Pittsburgh it's been atrocious watching them lately. And then Denver and Buffalo. That would be a huge upset. But with MVP Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's getting MVP. I have no doubt about it. Josh Allen is getting MVP. Bo Nix is a valiant effort leading his team to the playoffs, but I feel like Buffalo is definitely going to get that win. And it would be, after that, it would be Buffalo, or hold up, let's see, let's look. Houston wins, they move on, they play the Chiefs as the number 4 seed, and we would have Buffalo against Baltimore. Huge game with huge implications right there. The 2 and 3 seed going against each other. So this is what it would look like after. I think I'm showing the right side. Yep. All right. And so let's move on to divisional games. Washington and Detroit. You just can't bet against Detroit at this point. Every time you bet against Detroit, unless they're playing the Bills, they've won. So I think Detroit is definitely locking in that win. And Detroit would move on at that point, being the number 1 seed. And the Rams and the Packers. Once again, guys, I'm not saying this because I'm a Packers fan, but the Packers have been on fire. There's no doubt about it. The Packers are an insane team. And they've also beat the Rams already. The Rams lost to them in week 5, I believe. So the Packers and it was a 5-point game, so it could have been anyone's game. But the Packers have only gotten better. The Packers, we haven't had turnovers in 5 games. That's insane. For Jordan Love. But I'm giving Green Bay that win. Oh, got some Sharpie on myself twice. Green Bay is gonna get that win, and it would be the 5th seed Green Bay against the 1 seed Detroit. And Detroit will. Alright guys, so I gotta redo this part of the video because I accidentally filmed it in slow-mo. Don't know how I did that, but let's start with Houston and Kansas City. Kansas City's gonna win. It's gonna be not very close game. Kansas City's gonna move on. Buffalo would win against Baltimore. Buffalo just shows up every time. Baltimore's hit or miss. I don't know if it's Josh Allen that's hit or not Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson that's hit or miss, or just his team surrounding him. But Buffalo would win that one. And then we're left with Detroit and Green Bay and Kansas City and Buffalo. I genuinely think that if Green Bay and Detroit play each other one more time, that Green Bay will win. They've both been close games, 10-point and 3-point games. And I think Green Bay would win. I think Green Bay would be going to the Super Bowl. I don't see on this path Green Bay not going to the Super Bowl, beating Tampa Bay, beating the Rams, and beating Detroit. I genuinely think they'd be in the Super Bowl. And then I think with Kansas City and Buffalo, Buffalo would win. They've beat Kansas City before, and I think we would see a Green Bay and a Buffalo in a Super Bowl, and I would love to see that. That's what we deserve because, I mean, you have two great receiving corps, two great quarterbacks, two great defenses, two great running backs. I mean, it's amazing. There's no doubt about it that would be an amazing game, and that's exactly what I would love to see. So, if you guys would like to, drop a comment on the video. Like and subscribe. I would love to see you guys subscribe. I want to start being able to go live, but I need to hit 50 subscribers before I can do that. So help me get there to 50. And yeah, it's gonna be a bright day whenever Green Bay is in the Super Bowl. Go Pack, go!